The drug smuggling from Mexico into the U.S. is nothing new, but as law enforcement authorities try to stem the tide of drug trafficking, they now have to worry about a troubling trend: young teenagers being recruited to tape drugs to their bodies and walk across the border. KPBS reporter Amy Isackson did a special report about this latest tactic in the drug trade, and she joins me now, so welcome, Amy.
Hi, Gloria.
How big a problem is this teen drug smuggling?
Federal officials say it's a big problem. I was listening to the head of Immigration and Customs Enforcement in San Diego talking the other day, and he said that it's one of the things that they're most concerned about. To put it into context, it still accounts for a small fraction of the panorama of drug smuggling across the border. But federal officials at the border crossings here in California across the border say that they are seeing a spike now. It kind of goes in cycles. Using teenagers really isn't anything new. 5 years ago, I believe they had 500 that they apprehended who were driving cars across the border with people inside those cars. And now they've, in the last, so far this year, have arrested 130 kids with drugs taped, just literally taped to their bodies, duct taped under their clothes.
So who are these kids? I mean, where do they live? Where do they go to the school? Are they on this side of the border or the other side of the border?
They're kids from both sides of the border. They go to school, the majority of them go to school in San Diego, and they go to schools right along the border, both here in San Diego and also in Imperial County. Most of them speak English fluently, speak Spanish fluently, and are comfortable on both sides of the border. They live in Tijuana, they live in San Diego, they have family in Tijuana, so they're really used to crossing the border. They're used to the process and seeing the agents, and the agents also are used to seeing them. And they're also good kids, supposedly, federal officials say, that don't have criminal records.
So why are they being recruited?
I think it's a number of reasons. One, smugglers are always on the lookout for new ways to get their contraband across the border. And there's thousands of students that cross the border every day from Tijuana to go to school in San Diego. And I think that smugglers figured out, well, we can try and blend in with that group. As we said, the kids are used to crossing. I think it's also that they're kind of relatively cheap labor. They're paid about $100 or $200, and to a 13, 14-year-old, that seems like a lot of money.
That sure does. And is that the benefit to them? Is that what they get out of it, the money?
I think that's the primary benefit. I was talking to a girl who she's 16 years old, and she was telling me about how this works at her school, and she said that her friend was doing it, and her friend would show up every few weeks with a new Coach purse. So it's the stuff, it's the bling, as one federal official told me. But there's also this cultural aspect that the 16-year-old I talked to was telling me about, that it's smuggling right now. She said it's 100%, to use her word. She says it's in, it's cool. She talked about how it kind of gives you this cachet that you're somehow tied to the drug cartels in Tijuana.
But they're kids, so, what makes them stand out? How are they caught?
I think that the agents were telling me that even though the kids are used to crossing the border, when they have drugs strapped to them, they act just slightly differently, and the agents are trained to be able to pick up on that. They were also telling me that the kids a while ago they were putting them in very baggy clothes, and that was a tip-off, or the kids would be wearing a sweatshirt and it would be 90 degrees outside.
That's a tip-off.
Exactly.
Certainly. So what happens when they're caught?
Well, they're turning them over to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement is turning them over actually to the state. Even though drug smuggling is a federal crime, the federal system here in San Diego and Imperial counties aren't equipped to deal with the problem, so the state is taking it. There aren't any standard penalties in the juvenile system, so it really depends on the child and their history, but the head of the district attorney's office for juveniles said that you're definitely not going to get to play your Xbox for a while, that you're going to be locked up while you're waiting for your case to go through, and then it's probation and anything on up to youth prison.
Well, aside from the penalties and, with the bling, the money they get out of it, it's got to be dangerous.
Dealing with drug smugglers, I don't think, is ever safe. And these federal officials say these groups are independent groups. So it's not as though the Arellano Felix cartel members are going onto these campuses or around these campuses to recruit the kids. They're independent groups that are far down the food chain, as I've been told from federal officials, from the cartels in Tijuana. But they resolve their problems with violence. They've threatened the kids because they're on high school campuses and some are friends with the kids. They know the kids' lives. They talk about hurting their families, etc.
Well, thank you very much, Amy Isackson.
Thank you.